Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I wanted to start my first video off and just talk about kind of what the overall themes are going to be for my channel going forward, and just sort of what to expect on each video. So I've really gotten into Gundam model kits lately. I will admit I have not done a huge number of them. I've really just done a couple of master grades, a couple of high grades, and that's really about it. And every time I look up a video for this stuff on YouTube or anywhere else, I always see a lot of stuff focusing on the aftermarket or After Effects stuff, if you will, of like painting them and wear and tear and all that good stuff. Now, those are great videos, but what I haven't seen a lot of is the actual process of building these guys. And that's what I wanted my channel to focus on, because I feel like a lot of things that Bandai does in all their designs really should be shown. So I'm really going to start off with the, sort of Mac Daddy one that everyone has done, this RX-78-2. And we're just going to go through the build and commentate on it. If I make mistakes, I'm not going to edit them out. And we'll just sort of go through this. And anytime I see something that's very cool or interesting, I'll make sure to point it out, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. So let's get started. So first things first, let's just kind of get started. I like to save the weapons for last, but one of the things that I feel like doesn't get talked about too much is just the ability to take some of these really complicated parts and render them three-dimensionally, so that way when you're putting these together, it doesn't really require any language or writing. It's just pictures, kind of like a Lego approach, but this is pretty complex, and I want to appreciate just how much thought goes into that for sure. So the first thing we're going to do is be putting together, looks like the whole body. So let's get started. So first off, I always think it's really cool just some of the technology that you can see in some of their sprues. I mean, I'm sure with a little bit of sitting down and thinking about it, you could probably figure out how they do this, but it's still cool nonetheless that, they just didn't have to. They could have made each of these individually, or they just do them all at once. And that's not really easier for them. It's more easier for the builder, which is a nice touch. So even in just the first piece here, I want to talk about how Bandai has figured out a way to, add colors with just snap out things. And that's this idea of layering. And I just think something as simple as these vents right here that might go into this chest, it all kind of slides in there like so. So on the inside, it looks just like a couple different colors, but on the outside, that's a great accent to really bring to life of any model. So that's kind of the first thing I always like to talk about, is just the layering that they do. Well, just dropped my first piece, but finally found it. This is pretty cool. I like this stage of putting stuff together from them, is that you can kind of tell what things are going to become, right? This is going to become kind of a waist pivot, which is pretty, even though small, it's still, they didn't have to, but they did, and that's cool. Same thing with the arms here. This will give it a little bit more, articulation, which is always super cool. So we'll keep going. All right, so look at that. Just with the body is complete, so a good chunk done. I never really liked these beam saber connections, but I guess they're fine. But look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors in just one snap fit model. None of that's really going anywhere. Even these, they don't really come out. So I always think that's really cool how they're able to achieve that level of precision with something, as simple as just injection molded plastic here. I mean, that's insane. So moving right along, just with the overall shape of what's being put in there, you get a little chin out of that face mask. It's pretty cool. There you go. So we got a nice little head here. It's probably not the best set of stickers on the eyes I've ever done, but even just for something simple, quick as a head like this, man, it goes together easy. And don't you just love the snap? Now we're looking like a Gundam here. Simple ball joint, but man, the friction on these is so amazing. I think they pull it off by doing like ABS plastic on those different joint sprues. But look at that. Very cool. So moving on to the arms. You'll notice that a lot of these sprues for their high grade, at least on this one, you can see that there's two sets for a lot of things. That's because they've found a way to make things that are not totally the same left and right, like a left arm and a right arm, but they found a way to make it pretty symmetrical in the build, which is pretty cool. Again, they didn't have to do that, but you'll see as we go through, there are some things that you can do simultaneously because left side, right side are identical. So as I go through that, I'll let you guys know. So for example, if you look at this sprue here, that's kind of what they've done. C3 is still just 3, but it's both of these parts as the same piece. So obviously that is a nice symmetrical piece there, right? As opposed to this, where you see, for the right arm, we've got a C2, and it looks like so. But then right next to that is C1, so obviously that's for the left arm. So that's where they can get away with some of these things. So this is going to be the elbow. And something that Bandai does with their elbows, they could just make them just a pin in a joint or a ball joint. That doesn't really quite capture how your elbow moves. So they've done these double joints, and I've seen this on the master. I've never done a real grade, but I've seen this on the master grade. And the cool thing about that is it really makes the elbow bend in a really clever way that makes it to where the armor and stuff like that doesn't get in the way. And then here's the cool stuff. If you look at the just geometry of these things, it's got little built-in stoppers. So that way you can never extend past straight. I just think that's so clever. I want to just take a second to appreciate how well that joint fits in there and how they just used like an S idea to stop it from just sliding off. I mean, that's kind of brilliant. This sort of stuff right here. They didn't have to do this, but they could do it. And it doesn't really do anything as far as function or anything, but dang, doesn't that just look great? Looks like that stuff's actually part of the mechanism. So they did all that work just to cover up everything that they did. So cool. So this is what I was talking about is, look at what I mean, look at that kind of flexion in the arm that you can get out of these guys. A bit of wrist action in there. On all of that is super tight tolerances. So there you go. So you might notice a change in the camera. I noticed that before it was really, really bright and you couldn't really see much of the detail. So fix that up for you. But look at how that's going to look. Very cool. Moving on to hips and legs now. So all we've done is create a foot here. But, I mean, just some things to appreciate what's going to happen. I mean, look at already the articulation in the ankle here, along with just this little bit extra. I mean, did they have to do that? No. They could have just given you this all as one piece with a red and a boom, and you just deal with it. But no, they just take it that extra step of articulation just because they can. And Why not show off? Hmm? So again, this is probably going to be a knee or something. Just look at this here. I mean, just the little ledges for things to catch on so they don't go any further. And look, I have to really apply some force here to get it to move. It's just, again, with this move. So cool. Just can't stop doing this. Once you get the armor together, you kind of want to see what it can do once it's put together. And that's what I mean by that double jointed knees and elbows. That's how it's able to do some really cool stuff. Beautiful. Now we get to snap all these bad boys together. There we go. And there we go. Now just look at that. I mean, can do roll your own ankle just like so, bending the knee so you can really get it all the way to touch the thigh. Then that hip turn. And look, everything holds itself. I'm just holding the pivot. That's how precise these guys are at Bandai. I swear they should make rocket ships. So cool. All right. Now we're kind of in the home stretch. This is usually where Bandai starts putting together the hip. So we'll do that. So I've got to say, this is kind of a clever idea for these hip skirts. But with that said, I don't like it. I think these should be individual, but to each their own. All right, so we've got our hip complete. So now let's, I guess now we're in the home stretch. Let's assemble this Gundam, huh? Standard RX-78-2. This is it complete. And this is what I mean by the articulation that you can get in these knees as a result. I mean, look at that. Changing this all different kinds of ways, flipping that up, because why not? Hands all over. And look, it just holds itself just in via friction. Look at that. Just balancing on one foot if you can't tell. Very cool. Just that little extra flexor there to get it to where the shoulder kind of goes up. I mean, come on. This is essentially a $12, $15, kit that, yeah, you have to build, but I challenge you to find a $12 to $15, anything of that level at that price range, at any store out there. I mean, look at what you're able to get with that. So next up is weapons. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of panel lining. That's something I do like to talk about, but I mean, look at that. So cool. So next up will be weapons. Don't know how long that'll take, but there's not a ton of weapons on this. So we'll get started. I'll have this guy kind of watch us. As you might notice, a different part of the day, but let's go ahead and knock out the weapons for this guy. So usually when I do this, I kind of, because the weapons for all Gundam kits are usually pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of parts to mix up. So I can just get them all done kind of all at once and just put them together. But the hands are always cool, so we'll definitely take a bit to talk about that. Okay, now that we have everything kind of apart, this should go pretty smooth. Nothing really looks too crazy, so let's snap it up. Simple little missile launcher. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, and they didn't have to do that, but they did, because they know when you pose something like this, Might be nice if it had a little articulation there. Didn't have to, but pretty cool nonetheless. Look at this. I was just looking at the instructions, and it shows to put that hole there on that pin. I was just first looking at it, I was going, man, that's going to have some clearance issues. What the heck? Did they do this wrong? No. The answer is it actually fits in there exactly the way it should. Look at that. And it snaps in beautifully. So awesome. Very cool. And then that's where it goes into some of that layering we were talking about. This looks pretty dumb. Let's put a little color on there. Now it says something, doesn't it? Very cool. I think it's really clever how Bandai figures out hands. And that sounds trivial, right? You might go, well, just make it a hole and stick the hand in there and it should work. But how do you get that hand to clamp properly? Well, they give you, let's say, this side of the hand that has everything but the one finger. And then they give you the other side with that finger. And you were to clamp it on like so. But best way to do that is to find something that requires that little trigger finger. Flip it over. And now it is on there. That's not moving. Right? And then, of course, all these are interchangeable. Boom. Super easy. And look, you can get those great poses like that, right? Boom. There we go. Look at that little bit extra. It goes in that little slot there if you want it to. Very cool. A little nifty. Shield doesn't go nowhere. This guy goes on there. This guy goes there. And there he is. So now, in my opinion, that's a pretty well completed high grade RX-78-2. Not a ton of stickers, always fun build, but like I said, the purpose of this channel is to maybe start to work our way up to real grade, maybe do some master grades on here, maybe eventually do, just kind of document the process of a perfect grade and just go through what all you're really getting for it. But I think something like this, it's a little model kit that really just takes, it took me a whopping hour and a half or so to do this entire thing. $12. Totally worth it. I think Bandai should be building spaceships, in my opinion, because they're too good at their job. So I'll get some panel lining on this guy. So if you guys are not familiar, they make these super easy to use markers. And, it doesn't sound like much, but the idea is you find some of these panels that would be like armor, like let's say there, and you get you a little line, and it adds a little bit of an extra touch as opposed to that. I think it's really cool. It definitely adds a lot of depth to anything. So I'll get this guy panel lined up, and that'll be it, guys. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I plan to make quite a few more of these. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this.